On today's episode of Time About the Movies, it's the week before Thanksgiving, and you know what that means. Bring on the holiday blockbusters, whether they are good or bad. And we have the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1. I don't think I need to tell you which one that is. Happy Feet 2. Some might think it's good, some might think it's bad. What do I think of it? Well, we'll delve into that. And we do have an Oscar contender this weekend, George Clooney, starring in Alexander Payne's latest film, The Descendants. It's November 18th, 2011, and this is, of course, Time About the Movies.
Dawn Part 1, rated PG-13, November 18th.
Oh, what fun we're going to have this time around, and by fun I mean complete and utter torture. Welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the three films that make up November 18th, 2011. And of course we're starting off with the biggest new release, The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1. Of course, this is the first part of the last chapter of the Twilight series, which, you know, if Harry Potter could split it up into two movies, then surely we can do it to great success. We're going to explain why that didn't work out. But after Bella and Edward's honeymoon, things take a turn for the worse when Bella realizes she is pregnant. The baby grows at an abnormally fast rate and causes many health problems to Bella. The Wolfpack see the unborn child as a threat and plan to get rid of it, but the Cullens do everything they can to ensure that both Bella and the unborn child remain safe. And like I said, this is where the fun begins, and of course by fun I mean complete and utter torture, because as bad as New Moon is, it pales nothing in comparison to the horrors of Breaking Dawn Part 1, and not the kind of horrors you expect for a movie about a vampire and a werewolf. This was literal torture. This was excruciating and painful to watch. I'm not even kidding. This is not a movie at all. It is nothing but watching really bad, shitty music videos that MTV would have played vividly back in 2011. You know, back when they still had music videos, barely. And, you know, these are nothing but, this whole movie is nothing but the soundtrack and the music videos blown up for the big screen, because the movie literally stops for these music videos. And they literally have a thread of a plot line that you have to sit through for 2.5 hours. Who wants to sit in this for 2.5 hours and get nothing of value out of it whatsoever? Well, Harry Potter did it, so why couldn't you? You know, Harry Potter split the last film into two parts, so that means Twilight can do it too. Well, you're not saying anything bad about Harry Potter. Here's the major difference people need to understand. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was split into two movies because the book was a 759-page book. So, of course, it needs to be split up into two movies because so much shit was going on in those books. Breaking Dawn is about 756 pages, but here's the major difference. Breaking Dawn Part 1 is a third of the last book. I shit you not. 33% of this book is in this movie. And they have nothing else to do with it but filled up with the most blandest, useless, and pointless stuff to make a 2.5-hour movie to make the audience think like they're seeing something special, when in the end they are completely wasting their time. It's like trying to watch a Cleveland Browns game and thinking that this is going to be their year, or a Dallas Cowboys game and thinking that it's going to be their year. It's not. You're completely wasting your time for no reason whatsoever. There is absolutely no reason why this needed to be as long as it was. It's filler. It's not even good filler. It's the kind of filler that they throw in to, again, make you think something important is happening, but it isn't. This is the equivalent of a YouTube video that is promising the greatest news ever, and you're just sitting there for 2.5 hours watching somebody rambling on and not getting anything of noteworthiness at the end, and they say, oh, by the way, this thing's going to happen. Thanks for watching. Like, they just wasted, you just wasted your time sitting there waiting for this big reveal, and they give it to you, and you've just sat there wasted your entire life for nothing. We can have this type of stuff and it be fun. We just had it this past spring when they announced the cast for the Avengers Secret Wars. It was literally nothing but director's chairs revealing all the names. Yeah, it was long, it was pointless, because they would later put out a video a lot too long after that, condensing that 10-hour wait to a 2-minute trailer. But you know why we stuck around with it? Because we were intrigued. because something interesting was happening when it really is literally nothing but watching these director's chairs, just revealing who's in the movie. I mean, that was more entertaining than anything in this movie. Think about that for a second. I'll wait. You done? Okay. I don't care about any of these characters to waste my time with this bullshit. If I didn't say I was going to do this, like I would have never watched these movies, and I would have never popped them in when I was going to watch them. But since I am, I'm calling it like it is. It's a waste of your goddamn time. This movie tries to make it seem like something you need to see, like there's something important when there's not anything at all. It's just 2.5 hours of just sitting there being bored to death and getting nothing but a thread of a plot. There's nothing but shitty music videos from songs straight up the soundtrack. There's no reason to make this movie whatsoever. But wait a minute, what about those scenes that... I hate Twilight, but I hear the craziest scenes in that movie, like, Bella and Edward have sex and it breaks the bed, and, like, there's the scene where Edward actually beats up Bella, or the scene where Jacob has to, like, eat the placenta of Bella's character. Yeah, that's in the movie, but guess what? They made that even boring, too. Like, this movie did not give two shits about anybody, not even the fans. Like, the fans will probably like this regardless of what I ever have to say about it, but I'm sorry. This movie fails on so many levels. It fails to be entertaining for them. It fails to be entertaining for the non-haters who want to see all the grotesque stuff. It fails on every singulatory level. I think you get the point. Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 is a waste of your goddamn time, and there's no reason whatsoever to ever watch this movie. As bad as the worst films in the Twilight series are, this is the absolute worst of the worst. Plain and simple. So let's try to get back in a much better mood here with a sequel to one of my favorite animated movies of all time. After 5 years, we finally get the continuing adventures of Mumble the Penguin and his family in Happy Feet 2.
Happy Feet 2. In theaters at IMAX 3D, November 18th.
Yeah, that trailer gives a lot of the indications of the many problems with this movie, which we're going to get into because there is definitely a lot of them. But there's, of course, a sequel to the 2006 Oscar-winning Best Animated Feature, Happy Feet, and has Mumble the Penguin once again, voiced by Elijah Wood, who has a problem. His son Eric, who is reluctant to dance, and he encounters this hero puffin called the Mighty Sven, played by Hank Azaria, after having one of his big years with the Smurfs, Hop, and now this movie, who thinks he's a penguin that can fly. Things get worse for Mumble when the world is shaken by powerful forces, causing him to bring together the penguin nations and their allies to set things straight. The trailer just shows you, doesn't even show that part of the movie. Like, none of the trailers really show that part of the film, honestly. Like, the more I think about it, but this was a movie I was really looking forward to because like I said, I love the first Happy Feet movie. On paper, it looked like a mediocre penguin movie with dancing and singing. This was around that time when that was the norm. March of the Penguins, Surf's Up, Madagascar. But this was one of the ones where it really stuck out the most because the animation was so good and the storytelling was very well done. It worked overall. Great characters, great story, interactions were great, the film was beautiful to look at. It was one of my favorite movies released that year, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So, naturally, I'm going into this with a lot of hope for it, and the sequel is definitely a disappointment, mostly in the fact that it's not as strong as the original film. But I will start off with the things I did really like about the movie, because there are things I liked about it. One of the big things about it that I really liked was that the animation was once again very good. The set pieces were still rendered very nicely. Most of the characters were very likable. The singing and dancing was just as good as the first movie. The soundtrack overall was pretty solid. The voice acting overall was really good, especially when you consider that, they lost some key members in between movies, because of course Brittany Murphy played Gloria in the first movie, but of course she unfortunately passed away in 2009. So they replaced her with Pink, and she was actually a good replacement overall. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a different voice, but you still bought the chemistry between her and Elijah Wood. You still bought them as a married couple, and it works very well to the advantages of the movie. And it does lead to my favorite scene in the entire movie. I mean, not only my favorite scene in the entire film, but one of the best scenes in movie history to me. The Bridge of Lights sequence. I mean, this is, without a doubt, the best scene in the entire movie. And really, when you watch it, it's not hard to see why. It's a part of the movie where, it's the scene where Mumble is arguing with his son Eric about, scolding him for his beliefs about the fact that no penguin can fly and that none of the Emperor penguins are able to escape from this area that they're trapped in. And this is all coming after Eric had wandered off to see the puffin that I talked about earlier, named Sven, who, like I said, has this ability to fly, and hence gives Eric the idea that penguins can fly. And after this heated argument where, Mumble goes his separate ways and Eric is, stressed out because of, his wool being kind of turned around on him, his mother, Gloria, tries to cheer him up by singing the song Bridge of Light, which, again, has some of the most gorgeous animation I've ever seen in the movie. I think the reason why this moment held up so well to me was that a lot of the heart and emotional impact that this movie was missing came back in this one scene in particular. And it helps that you have a great singing voice of Pink in there, but also this really damn good animation, like the colors in the sky whenever they're singing. It's just so beautiful to look at. And that was what was missing most from the sequel. A lot of the beauty that made the first film so great to look at. There's scenes in that first movie that are so impressive to look at. Keep in mind, these are George Miller directed movies, and the guy knows what he's doing. I mean, the guy is phenomenal at his job. And it just works in here. And for a brief moment, the sequel actually had life to it. But the saddest part is that it's the only memorable thing that came out of this movie. Because once that's over, you have to go back to the generic movie that follows. And that's where a lot of the major problems come into play with this film. Because it suffers from a number of different things. First off, the new characters, most of them are pretty unnecessary. The most notable ones that I swear they threw them in there because they saw what Scrat meant to the Ice Age series and said, we need our own Scrat. So let's go ahead and get Brad Pitt and Matt Damon to star as two Krill who show up at various points in the movie. What is their purpose in the film? Be the comic relief. I mean, it's not enough what we got Robin Williams back in this movie. I mean, who wants to see more of Robin Williams? And why don't we just have let's waste our time with Brad Pitt and Matt Damon as these characters who serve no purpose to the film whatsoever until the very end of the movie. And even then, all they're here to do is to be like the Scrat characters from Ice Age. I mean, they just show up out of nowhere, and for 99% of the film, they contribute nothing until the very end of the movie. Another big problem is that the film feels way too rushed. I mean, what I mean by that is that the pacing really does seem off. It's like the movie isn't even 15 minutes in, and already we're heading into the beginning of the conflict of the movie. And unlike the last film, where the film took its time to get to the conflict of that film, we're not even 15 minutes in, and already the icebergs hit the town and, keep these penguins contained in this one area. And the biggest flaw of the film overall is the story. It's all over the place. It's poorly done. In the first film, like I said, it took its time to get moving. It didn't feel the need to speed it up at any point, and it worked for the pacing of the film itself. And here, it just feels like it was way too contrived and lost. Like, it felt like it was a lost cause for this particular movie. We've had 3 animated sequels released this year. This one, Kung Fu Panda 2, and Cars 2. And only one of them expanded on the story and gave it a new, fresher look to it that wasn't seen in the previous movie. And that was Kung Fu Panda 2. They expanded the story and the universe to give the main characters and the world a bigger view, a bigger expansion of the universe, and they had time to put together a story with all these characters. Like, you felt new dynamics that weren't there before with Kung Fu Panda 2. Cars 2 didn't do that. I mean, Cars 2 basically just said, we're going to do jack all with the story, and we're going to throw in an unnecessary spy plot, and that film kind of got destroyed. And sadly in this, they do much of the same thing in Cars 2. They didn't do anything to expand on this universe, and instead gave us essentially a retread of the first film. And it did do what Cars 2 did, but it felt like it almost did at the same time. But it's just like, I hate movies that just end up, I also really hate movies that just end up out of nowhere. It ends just as the big conflict is over. Like, not even a minute after the icebergs come down. The penguins are saved, the movie ends, and the credits roll. It's just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, even in the first movie, they took their time after the big conflict was resolved to say, hey, everything's gonna be okay. But in this case, now it's just like, nope, get the fuck out of here. We gotta get you out of here. It's just like, To me, that's the laziest way to end a movie. The previous two movies that Animal Logic did, Happy Feet and Legend of the Guardians, did not just end the movie out of nowhere. They gave the film time to wrap up every loose end, give us a little breather before we go to the credits, and you don't just wrap a movie up 30 seconds after the end of the climax. You're a movie, you're not a TV show, and you don't wrap up your story in 44 minutes. You have all the time in the world. You're in a movie theater. Be a movie. Plain and simple. So yeah, I'm very conflicted on this movie. There's a lot of things I didn't like about it, but with all that said, there is still a lot I did enjoy about it. I like the things that I gave praise for it. The animation, the voice work, the amazing set pieces, the likable characters, the choreography, the singing, the dancing, the music. All that is great. The biggest problem with the film is that the story is all over the place, and it's not written well at all, and the pacing is way off. It isn't as bad as Cars 2, but it's nowhere up to the levels of Kung Fu Panda 2. And if we're being perfectly honest, besides the Bridge of Light sequence, the only reason why I went to see this movie multiple times in the theater, honestly, was because of this. I mean, how can I not be excited for another new 3D Looney Tunes short? But not only that, we're not just doing Wile E. and Coyote Roadrunner, we're doing Sylvester and Tweety, and that really is probably my favorite one of those shorts that they did. I mean, you see it right there with just the way that the fur and the whiskers and the texture on Sylvester and Tweety come out in this. Just, I mean, essentially it's a music video version of the classic song "I Taught Putty Tat" with Mel Blanc's voice over the characters of Sylvester and Tweety, but at the same time, it's still really fun to look at. The animation is great, the comedy is still really funny, and it is great to hear Mel Blanc's voice on the big screen once again. I mean, yeah, it's not much, but it works. It's very well done, and like I said, it's definitely the best of those 3D Looney Tunes shorts that they've done. And it's basically just a music video, but a fun music video too. Like, I mean, it's just a ton of fun. Like I said, it's one of my favorite sketch shorts from the 3D Looney Tunes era, and I really do love that one a lot. It was really the only reason I went to see Happy Feet 2 more than once in the theater, honestly. Other than that, though, it's definitely a step down from the previous movie. Granted, there are still a lot of elements I do like about it, but the stuff that I really don't like about it really stick out a lot, and overall, it's just a mixed opinion on me. I can't really say it's bad, but I can't really say it's great either, so take that for what you will. But for me, Happy Feet 2 was definitely a step down from the previous movie, but it does still have stuff I really like about it, specifically that Bridge of Light sequence. I mean, that to me is the highlight of the movie, no question about it. So with that said, we talked about a bad sequel, we talked about a sequel, but let's talk about a good movie. Not a sequel by any means. I don't even know why I said sequel for this case, but let's talk about The Descendants with George Clooney.
He will travel a great distance, and though he is a bird, he won't fly. Though he lives in the sea, he won't swim.
I don't know why the brilliance of that trailer is so good. I don't know if it's maybe because of the fact that, you know, it's a trailer with March of the Penguins, and we just talked about Happy Feet 2, or just the fact that it's literally just them watching Morgan Freeman narrate the documentary March of the Penguins. That's the way they sold that movie in that trailer, and hey, it made for a really good movie in the long run. The Descendants is Alex Payne's follow-up to Sideways, his first film since then, so we're coming up on 7 years since that film, and the story of it follows Matt King, played by George Clooney, who's an attorney and land baron who struggles with unexpected occurrences in his monotonous life. He's dealing with his family, with his daughter, played by Shailene Woodley. You also have Beau Bridges, Judy Greer, Michael Odkine, Matthew Lillard, and Robert Forster. This is co-written by Nat Faxon and Jim Rash, and it's funny because they actually won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, which I thought was very interesting for the fact that, you know, the dean from Community actually got an Academy Award, and so did Ben from Ben and Kate, that great underrated show that lasted on Fox for one season for some stupid reason. But this is Alexander Payne doing what Alexander Payne does best. This is definitely one of his best movies overall, and ending a really strong year for George Clooney, who had the Ides of March earlier in the year, And he has this film here, and it's another winner for him. And it's Shailene Woodley. I think this was her big breakout role because she had been on The Secret Life of the American Teenager on ABC Family for the last couple of years. And this was her first real chance to show everybody that, you know, she's got the acting chops to work with here, and it really does work to her advantages. But, you know, sadly, she never became the next Jennifer Lawrence before Jennifer Lawrence, and essentially her film career kind of came to an end once she took on the Divergent series, which really wasn't her fault. It was just, you know, a bad Twilight knockoff film, but all a good time. We will get to those ones later on down the road, but overall, this is a really good movie. It works specifically for the performances, the writing and direction of Alexander Payne. The comedy is really good. The serious stuff is really good. It's an all-around winner. I can't recommend this one enough. The Descendants. Great, great film. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we have Thanksgiving weekend, and looking at the movies here, it's actually probably one of the best Thanksgiving weekends, if not the best Thanksgiving weekends that we've looked at on this show, because you've got Disney's reboot of The Muppets, you have one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time, Arthur Christmas, Martin Scorsese tackling a family film with Hugo, Michelle Williams starring as Marilyn Monroe in My Week with Marilyn, and the Best Picture winner of the year, The Artist, which is a film that, unlike The King's Speech the year before, was a well-deserved Best Picture winner for the Weinstein Company, and I'll explain why tomorrow on the show, so definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm really looking forward to this week coming up here. A lot of great movies to talk about on this one, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please do me the honors of going to the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button, and also don't forget to check out the playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.